Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric. Yes, it is. It's Thursday morning, and I believe it's the 7th. Yes, by God, I'm right this morning. So first of all, I want to say thank you for all the well wishes and prayers. It's greatly appreciated. The wife is where she needs to be, and they're doing some medication changes and adjustments, and it is what it is, right? All families have it. So I thought today we would talk about why one business owner succeeds and the other business owner fails. And I the biggest thing, if you want to be self-employed and you want to be a business owner and you want to have employees, you have to have the drive. And what do I mean by the drive? I mean, you can't just work an 8-hour day 5 days a week in the beginning and think that you're going to be able to run a business. I've seen many that tried that. And the other thing is when you meet up with a challenge and it doesn't go exactly your way, you have to have the resilience to keep going and to learn why that didn't work. If you don't know why it didn't work, you're just going to keep repeating yourself, getting the same answer. That it won't work. Now, if you do something and it doesn't work and you tweak it to where you think that it might work, it might be just a ticket. That's what I mean about drive. You can't sit back and expect customers to run you down in your doorway for business. You have to continually be out there. You have to be trustworthy, honest. You have to gain the trust of that customer. There's been enough shady things out there in the world that most people in their 30s and up, they've had an instance where they didn't feel like they got a good part of a deal. And my philosophy has always been, I will not do the deal unless it's good for me and it's good for them. Yeah, I want it good for them. Why do I want it good for them? Because I want them to be happy and content that they got a fair shake. And I do that with every aspect of my life. It's not just with people you don't know. It could be customers, could be family members. If you can't feel good about a deal, that the deal isn't good for everybody involved, the best thing you can do is back out. Even if you're the one that's going to come out on top, I'm telling you right now, it's better to back out and rethink it. Now, if you feel like you're coming out on the better end and you're screwing the other person, that's in your court. My court says, no, I'm not going to put the screws to this other person. So I'll sit back down with the other person and try to figure out something that's equitable and fair to everyone involved. Does that make any sense? I've seen people come in and take over a profitable business and within a year run that into the ground. And why is that? What was the difference between the prior owner that was successful and profitable to the new owner that's now facing bankruptcy 8 months later? And it's all in how the prior owner approached their customers, their employees, how they dealt with the different places that they get their stuff from, how they did their books. But I can tell you, the biggest thing is the previous owner. the person that started that business and was running that business and making it profitable. Because when you're trying to run a business, you have so many different hats to wear and juggle. If you have employees, your employees have to feel valued. If your employees don't feel valued and that you've got their back, do you think that they're going to have your back when times get a little tough and you're trying to scrape by as far as hitting challenges and hurdles? Yeah. And the other thing is, you have to put yourself in a position to think like a customer. If you were a customer coming into your business, how would you want to be treated? A. And what the expectation is for an outcome. And that even means, are you willing to pay your shop rate? Are you willing to pay your hourly rate? Are you willing to pay so much more for parts? And the one thing that I look at is, I have customers that will come here and buy parts from me, even though they're more expensive than they are on eBay, because they trust me. They know that I haven't got a big markup on my parts, and that I'm there for them whenever they need it. And I'll tell you, I've got customers that just don't have the money to pay a bill to have a lawnmower fixed. Where I've taken it a step further and gone out and grabbed that mower, brought it in, got it fixed, got it back out, and just simply said, just pay me when you can. That gets around. People watch what you do as a shop owner and how you relate and how you treat your employees, customers. So, it brings it back to, it's not for everyone. I think Amos said that 6% is the number for people that actually succeed and create their own business. That's 6% of the population. The rest of the population is working for somebody else or retired. So I would suggest to anybody that if you're watching this video and you haven't gone into business yet, but this is something you're contemplating, you need to do your homework. And that means sitting down with a business plan. You can get them right offline for free. And just going down through all the questions and the steps. It kind of gets your focus where it needs to be. And it kind of gives you the business plan is not only for the financial side of asking for money from banks and so forth. It's to hone in on exactly what you're going to do. Now, you got to be careful that you don't do the shotgun effect, which means you're just trying to splatter the whole area and hope something works. You have to define it closer to someone that's a marksman shooting out 700 yards and trying to hit the bullseye. Well, that's what you want. The mentality of trying to run your own business is you need to focus it down to the basics of what exactly, and write out exactly how it's going to happen. And I would also, if you can, if possible, some guys won't talk to you, but a lot of business owners will. If you're young and you're trying to get into business, they're not going to give you all their trade secrets, but they'll give you good advice on what not to do. But my grandfather once told me, he said, you can try to tell your kids not to do things, to keep them out of harm's way, but they're still going to do it. So the best thing you can do is minimize it. And that's kind of like business. So, if that's what you want to do, is become a shop owner or a business owner of any kind, you have to understand that it takes drive. And when I say drive, you're not going to work your 40 hours a week and have no pressure or no worries and just see. That's the difference between being an employee and being an owner. The employee, when they clock out at night, they're not sitting there worrying about your job, but you are. And when they clock in the morning, it's whoop, no big deal. Whereas with the owner, sometimes you might have been up till midnight trying to figure things out, and what's your next game plan? What I found when I first started this business was I was working 14, 15-hour days, sometimes 7 days a week, and it will burn you out quick if you don't have the stamina and the drive to keep pushing through. And I also, for the hurdles that I tried jumping and failed, I quickly learned why I failed and didn't do it again. That's all part of being a business owner. I would encourage anyone out there that wants to be a business owner to start with your business plan first. Decide if you want to put in, 7-day weeks, 12, 15-hour days for quite a while, usually the first 5 years, because it takes the census is it takes 5 years to get your business profitable out of the red. And I was able to do it because I focused on keeping as little debt as I could and pushing out as much as I could to bring money back into the business. So enough on that. If you guys out there that have a business, if you're running a business and you're doing well, if you want to add a few points I may have missed for someone trying to get into the business, or become a self-employed person, it'd be greatly appreciated. So that somewhat ties into the second part of today's video, and that is what's best. Shop rate, which is flat rate, or an employee that collects their 40 hours a week and they get paid so much a day. Doesn't depend on how much they get done. Now, with me, I've always done an hourly rate with our mechanics. And why is that? It's simpler for me, but I've been blessed to have good employees that they do take care of me, and I've got their backs. Do we have our tiffs every so often? Absolutely. I don't care who you are. If you're side by side working together all the time, or being together all the time, you're going to have your ups and your downs. And the key to it is pulling through the downs and enjoying the ups. But I think it's all on how a business owner approaches things. Now, my son I can use as an example. He was working for an oil company, selling oil, Citgo. Yes, that's the name of it. And he had a different route every day. He was a traveling salesman of where he needed to be. And he always told me, he said that I'm married to my phone. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm old. He said it means that I have to have my phone on at all times. So when I'm even off the clock, I still have to have my phone on, so if customers need something, I'm taking care of them. And he would tell me about certain businesses calling him 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and telling him I needed 4 or 5 barrels, 55-gallon drums of engine oil or hydraulic fluid or what have you, because they were out. And he tried with so much to set them up so that they always kept extra stock that would push them through, give their company time, because once my son figured out what they needed, he would call back and the truck would come out, either with the drums on it or the big truck would come and pump the oil, engine oil, hydraulic oil, what have you, in their tanks. But those trucks had routes as well during the day, and those guys were working 9 to 5, and they were done at 5 o'clock, so that truck was sitting back at their location after 5 o'clock. And my son would tell me that like 8 o'clock at night, he's out there delivering 55-gallon drums to different businesses, mainly dairy farms anyways, because they needed it. So he did this for a year or two, and he was running into the same issue of not being home that much, basically living as a business owner, but not getting the rewards of being a business owner. And he couldn't just get off the clock at a certain time. And his prior job was a car salesman. And the thing was, with being a car salesman, he was very good at what he did. But he made himself always available to his customers. I mean, he had a Rolodex on his phone. He had a business phone, and then he had his personal phone. And a lot of times he would even give customers his personal phone number, which I don't suggest that. If you're a business owner, keep it on a business phone and have them leave messages after a certain time. But he ran into the same thing. He was making good money, but he was married to his phone, and he didn't have a lot of time to do other stuff. And he was always irritated, and that's signs of being burned out. So he went back to where he was a salesman for cars and trucks, and is now a mechanic. And I see his stress level go just like that, way down. And he was actually out here helping me on his 3-day weekend with Labor Day, helping me get hay in, which was greatly appreciated. But I could see that his whole demeanor, he was more outgoing, laughing. He wasn't complaining about anything. And I said, "What's going on, bub?" He said, "I got a job where I get there, I clock in, I do my work, and at 5 o'clock, I'm done. No after-hour calls, no doing this, no doing that." He said, "I got time to spend with the kids and fiance." And he enjoys what he does. So this brings me to, he was discussing with me that at that shop that he's working at as a mechanic, that they're testing the water for doing it flat rate. And some of you guys out there that are already doing it as business owners and as the employee mechanic, what have you, that doing the shop rate or the flat rate, could comment. That would be great. But his explanation to me is with the flat rate, they figure that it takes a certain amount of time to do a certain job. And the better you are at being a mechanic, basically, and can get the stuff in and out fast, that the owner of the business only cares about that they have on the books 40 hours of payables from customers. for each employee. And if you're a really good mechanic and you're willing to do the extra, per se, you can actually knock out and get 40 hours knocked out within 3 days, 4 days. But you're going to get paid for as many hours as it takes to do the job at the end of the week versus an hourly where it doesn't matter how many units you get out, you're still going to get the same amount of pay. So I can see pluses and minuses with that. Pluses with the shop because the business needs billable hours. And the more billable hours you have, the more money that business should be making. And employees are more encouraged to get stuff in and out on flat rate versus hourly rate, because it doesn't matter how long it takes to do that job. If they can do it in half the time, they're not going to get paid anymore. So I can see, the way kind of the pluses. So the minuses for doing flat rate to an employee is, in my understanding, and you guys can correct me, but if a unit goes out and ends up coming back for the same issue, my understanding with flat rate is that mechanic does not get paid anything. They're doing it for free because they've already been paid for doing the job. Whereas in our shop, if our mechanics get stuff done and it goes out and then it comes back for the same reason, then it's always on me as the shop owner. I have to eat that I'm paying a mechanic again to do something that should have been done the first time around. So, I can see the pluses and minuses. So, for you guys out there that are doing well and you're self-employed and you'd like to weigh in on our conversation today, it'd be greatly appreciated. And as you can see, I'm not totally sure on how this flat rate and hourly rate. I know the hourly rate because that's what we do here, but for you shop owners and mechanics that are already doing this flat rate, maybe you could explain it better because you're already doing it and the pros and cons. But on that note, you guys have a great Thursday. Thanks so much for watching and the prayers, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning, same time.